is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Good morning, I'm Justin Warmoth. Last weekend, Seminole High School won its first baseball state championship in almost 2 decades, and they did so with a first-year head coach. This morning, Coach Kenny Brown is here to talk about the historic season and the bond he formed with the Bokie baseball team. And Coach, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. And first off, congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Have you been able to process winning a state championship and what that ultimately feels like for you?
Wow, it's been a couple of days of just downtime and trying to do that, trying to process it. And with the draft last night, it still was still evident that the game's still on in a sense.
Yeah.
It hasn't turned off. But today's a little different. But I still get texts from some good friends saying, "Hey, you're state champion," so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure once you get that ring in the
yeah.
mail,
Oh yeah,
it'll be hard to turn a smile off, right?
I know.
mean, goodness gracious. Your first season too.
yeah.
How does someone turn a program around in one season? Like what is the approach there?
Well, you have to understand, I inherited a program that was pretty well groomed from Derek Wolf and David Eckstein. I mean, these boys knew the game of baseball, and these guys did a fantastic job. And David went off to the Pirates, and Wolfie went off to coach professional baseball. So I inherited a program that was well groomed. So it was just a matter of me kind of continuing what they had in place and putting a little dab of my stuff in there. And so there wasn't really a whole lot of change as much as there was. We set a goal, we set a direction, and went from there.
This is the first team that you've coached since 1999?
It is. First high school team I've been head coach of since '99.
I mean, talk about the significance there. I mean, how does one go from, it is a different brand of baseball.
It is.
And getting across to this, era of athletes in high school than it was in 1999. So
Right.
Who do you lean on? How do you go about getting the point across to these guys?
I hired a guy. The first guy I went to was Kevin Wayne Scott, who was the former coach at Oviedo. And both Kevin and I had the Oviedo background and the mentality. And we were both little guys who were always overachievers. And I'd watched Kevin grow up at Lyman and watched him coach. And I think he's the all-time winningest coach at Oviedo. I'm not sure if that still belongs to Howard maybe or not. But at any rate, he wins. And so I needed someone with me that could help communicate the goals of the game to these kids. And so I got him, and we just went from there, to be honest with you. I mean, it was just a matter of taking old school philosophy and mixing it with a little new school philosophy. I mean, I knew some of these kids from coaching in the Florida League, and I knew that, back in the early 90s when Andy Lopez was the coach at University of Florida, I formed a great relationship with him, and I basically adopted his system. And I was curious if it still worked, to be honest with you. It's so simple that I was curious to see if it still worked. And in '99, I walked away from a team that, as a coach, all you want to get from your players, you have them when they give you their complete trust and they believe in you, and you feel that. And I had that in '99, and walking away from that was difficult for me because I had a great relationship with those kids, and I've often wondered if I would ever get that again. And I remember, I remember getting this from these Seminole kids, and where it took place was running these stupid nines. They're called nines. It's 3 miles of sprints, but it teaches you to compete within yourself, and it's something I did. And
it started in the fall.
It started in the fall, but.
And they don't know you from Adam, do they?
No.
I mean, these kids have had a coach that, throughout their high school career. You come in and you insert this new brand, this new style. Did it take a while to get the point across?
Oh yeah,
what you were trying to do?
There was a dissension, pretty much. I had seniors on this side, juniors on this side. Yeah. When I took the job, I had guys going everywhere. They weren't coming to Seminole. They were leaving.
Really?
They were going to go to, one was going to Haggerty, one was going to TNXL, one was going to Lake Mary. So, and I was getting, hey, you need to call so-and-so, you got to get them back on board. And I was like, no, I'll wait until the first day of school, and I'll go to battle with who shows up. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to show, whoever shows up knows that they're going to be family to me. That's the big thing when I took the job, I told my wife, you have to understand we're about to adopt 20 to 25 guys. I mean, I need you to understand that, because this is my mentality is when I coach, I adopt these kids and mentally, and I wear what's wrong with them or what's right with them or how to, and it's very difficult. It's wearing on me, and a lot of coaches don't do that.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and I had to get their trust. And when we ran those nines, when everyone ran those nines and made the times, I remember coming home and looking at my wife, and I was like, they ran them, and she didn't really grasp it. But I mean, I was in tears because it was like, they just gave me the greatest gift they could give me. They just told me, okay, coach, we believe in you. And
it was more than just running the nines.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, game on. I will, they have everything that, they have my complete trust now. And so we started coming together, and that was the coolest thing in the world, is because we weren't really together until spring break. And spring break, we had a couple of things take place that brought us closer, and once that happened, man, it was neat.
You knew, was that the point where you knew that this team had a chance to compete for a state title?
Right.
Was that the point?
It was, and we played Spruce Creek, and Spruce Creek is coached by Johnny Goodrich, and he's one of the top coaches in the state, if not the nation. I mean, he is a phenomenal coach, and what he gets out of his players. I mean, I admire what he does, and I've watched what he does, and Spruce Creek's team was great. It was a great team, and I knew if we could get past them, we'd be in great shape for district seeding, and we beat them twice. And when we beat them at their place, 4-0, and Charlie, my left-hander, threw and did a shutout. I remember getting on the bus, looking at Kevin, going, "Wow, this is special." And he goes, "We're going to win state." And I said, "I think we are. I think we're going to win a state championship." And it was then where we started clicking.
Listen, you would do anything for these kids.
Yes.
You would even bleach your hair.
I did.
This is not his normal hair color. I wanted to point that out because I was just noticing it. So when did you sent a message to the kids?
Yeah.
Right around Mother's Day, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Mother's Day.
Yeah. Mother's Day.
Yeah, we had lost the district to Spruce Creek, and they were down, and I was like, man, I told my wife, I was like, they're down, I don't know what to do. And I was like, you know what, they were talking about bleaching her hair if they won or whatnot. I said, let's bleach my hair. Let's bleach my hair. And she was all on board, and we bleached it. So I sent them a message, and I said, I want to let you guys know that I'll do anything, for whatever it takes. And I showed them that, and the rest is history. And then it was, okay, if we win the region, we're going to get Mohawks. And I was like, well, I have hardly any hair anyway. So I had to go to a special barber in Lake Mary to try to give me something. But I was on board with it.
Yeah.
I just remember some of the stuff, reading about Joe Madden and some of the stuff he did as a manager to get his teams to do things. And, you know, what's the big deal? I mean, he had to quote, never let the pressure exceed the pleasure of playing the game. And something along that lines, and that's basically what was always in my mind, is we're not going to put pressure on these kids. You know, it's still a game. It's still supposed to be fun.
And while Coach is on top right now, getting to this point has been anything but easy. Coming up, we'll discuss his bout with throat cancer and how he's educating his players about the dangers of tobacco. Keep it here.
This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Welcome back. This morning we're joined by Seminole High School head coach Kenny Brown. In his first year on the job, he led his team to the state championship, the first one since 1992. But this incredible season would not have happened if he didn't overcome a mound of adversity off the field. I'd like to ask you too about your scare, your medical scare.
Yeah.
Tell me about this and your recovery from throat cancer, right?
Yeah. Well, had over 30 years of dipping tobacco, you know, and
you know, the baseball
community. I mean, it was something that I did, and you know, I could leave the house and drive away and not know where my wallet is and know that it's at home and just say, oh, forget it. But if I left a can of dip at home, I'd turn around and go back and get it. I mean, it's highly addictive, and but no one I knew ever got cancer from it. And I remember having a swollen lymph node in October, and it's still being a guy saying, "Oh, it'll go away." And then in February, I remember we're about to go on a ski trip, and I remember going to the doctor, and the doctor looking at me and going, "I think this is serious. And when you get back from this trip, we need to. I'm going to give you these pills, but if we get back, if it's not down or anything, we're going to do something about it." And it wasn't down. I remember going to Breckenridge, and I remember thinking, I think I have cancer. And I remember finally going to the very tip of Breckenridge, to that rope, to that one point of the double blacks or whatnot, and looking down, like, I may never see this again, and being that little bit scared, and then going to the doctor and him diagnosing me with it, and then.
So when was this? What year?
This is 2008.
Okay.
And I was the athletic director at Winter Springs at the time, and man, they cut me from here to here. Took out 17 lymph nodes. It had traveled to 4 of them. Took my tonsils out, and because it traveled to 4 of the lymph nodes, they were scared where it had gone. So I remember waking up with staples. I mean, it looked like they cut half my head off, and I remember looking at it saying, I could have prevented this.
This is my fault. Dipping.
Yeah.
This entirely from throwing something in.
This is something that I was addicted to.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking in that mirror and I mean, it was a horrible picture. And what took place after that was even more horrible with I think I had 37 treatments of radiation, and then they quit giving me chemo because my doctor said the next chemo round is going to kill you. And I had lost 50 some odd pounds. I had a feeding tube, and it was a bad ride. And I always remember from dipping. Yeah, I just remember thinking, this is from dipping. It's something I could have prevented. And so, and it was stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma. And they basically gave me a death sentence in a sense that,
so they said this is going to kill you.
Well, they said they're going to try to kill me to save me. I remember them saying that it's going to take that. And I laughed at them. I was the only one that didn't think I was going to die, I guess. And I can remember friends coming over and just the look at their face. I thought it looked good because it was a great weight loss plan. But I mean, I apparently didn't. So it was traumatic for my family, and it was, and that I didn't see. And it was a ride that, if I could tell anyone in the world, I mean, just don't dip. And if they tell me that they've been dipping, I tell them to send them to rehab, because nicotine's the most addictive drug on the planet, and it is. I've watched people smoke; they can't quit. But the dipping, it gets right into your system, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't quit. I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
And
now that you're around young men who might be subjected to seeing some of that, whether it's a vape nowadays or still, you are firsthand, you can tell them this is what it can do to you.
I carry around a picture of me that
if you see someone doing it,
I say, hey, this is probably the route you're headed. Especially with all the vaping that's taking place with it. It's not even FDA approved. It's the things that these kids are doing. It's shocking that they would do that, but I was there. Yeah. I did it. And
you could be messing around at one point, and then the next day you're addicted.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gets right into your system, and you wonder who the accountability goes to, but I always take blame. So you want to blame somebody for it, but bottom line comes down to me. I'm the one that put it in my mouth. I'm the one that did it, and you got to take credit. I have to take credit for that, not anyone else.
Well, that happened in 2008, and your recovery was, I'm sure, a few years, if not several years down the path. So when did you decide that you wanted to get back into coaching? I mean, something like that happens to someone, they may say, I'm chilling, I'm good, I'm going to spend it with my family. You went on to spend it with an adopted family, if you will.
Right.
So when did you decide that you wanted to get back into coaching?
Well, cancer, you think cancer would get my attention, I mean, that would be the thing that would get most people's attention and whatnot, but it really wasn't. I'm a faithful person. I'm faithful. I have total faith that God has a plan for me and puts me in situations. And in 2013, I lost everything. I mean, I lost everything. I lost. My mom died. I lost my job, I lost my marriage, I lost my kids, I lost my money, I lost everything. Everything that defined me was gone. So building up to trying to find out what it is that I needed to do to find me again. And I had to start completely over with, and it was painful, and I didn't make great decisions. My divorce was tough, and so I just prayed, and to be honest with you, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I'd lost my purpose, I'd lost my passion, and I remember Mike Powers saying, I know what it meant, loved on me, but those two put me back on a path. I was derailed and put me back on a path. And I remember going, wow, this is something I really want to do. And then Kevin Davidson started with the baseball cloud stuff and with all the flight scope stuff, and he really brought me along too, and brought me into a scenario to where, KB, this is something that you can take with young kids. This is a whole new level, and we'll give you, you can have access to our cages and stuff. Just bring kids in here. Let's get some data. And I started working with kids on that aspect, and I'll forever be grateful to Kevin for giving me that outlet. And Florida, Rob Seitz and Stephen Foggi with the
Florida Collegiate
Summer League gave me a 15U team, and I started coaching this 15U team, and I knew that this was great. And it's just a slow process, and it was. I remember texting right before the state championship game, texting to people that were responsible for me being there, and I said, I want to tell you this before the game, win or lose, that regardless of what happens, I'm going to be standing in a dugout, and people are going to see me sitting in that dugout, and we've won because that's where God wants me to be, and I can just sit in that dugout, and people are going to look at me, and they're going to have hope. They're going to have hope because they know where I was, and they saw the fight I had. But here I sit, coaching for as ridiculous as it may sound, a baseball game, but baseball's not life, but it does mirror life in a sense. So my presence there is giving somebody hope to fight another day, and that's it. I mean, if that's what God wants me to be, fine, I'm good with that.
What an outlook. Now, of course, the season ended on the highest of notes, but tragedy struck before Seminole played its first preseason game. A longtime teacher and announcer at this school, Charlie Schomer, suffered a stroke in the press box, and Coach Brown was the one who found him. So this historic season, was dedicated to Mr. Schomer. We have that part of the interview on clickorlando.com/weekly. I'm Justin Mormith. Have a great Sunday.